Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, my ongoing series where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way up to 2022 and review them. And today is special because we are not talking about an episode today. Instead, we are talking about Doctor Who and the Daleks, the Peter Cushing movie from Aru Productions. And yes, we are going to talk about it because you know what? When I said to myself that I'm doing a rewatch of all of Doctor Who, I literally meant all of Doctor Who, including the two Peter Cushing movies that were released in the 60s that had little to nothing to do with Doctor Who at all, aside from the police box and some of the names of the characters and Terry Nation, I suppose. Now, you know what? I watched those two movies back to back pretty much years and years ago, and I think during my first rewatch of, sorry, not even a rewatch, my first time watching all of classic Doctor Who, somehow I found a way to slip in those two movies in there, and you know what? I did not like them. I felt they were completely unnecessary. They're kind of movie adaptations of the two Daleks serials that were already on television by that point. Doctor Who and the Daleks is literally an adaptation of the first ever Dalek story, The Mutants, which was later renamed The Daleks, and The Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 is an adaptation of The Daleks Invasion of Earth, the other Dalek serial that was in the second season of Doctor Who. And probably the main reason why I felt the way that I did about those two movies originally when I watched them for the first time is I felt they were completely unnecessary. Like, you already have the TV episodes. If given a choice, I'm going to watch the TV episodes. I'm not going to watch those movies. Because those episodes are connected to the show. It's with the characters that I like, the characters that I've been following as part of the show, especially the second one. The movies, I should say, they do not. I mean, they're just one-offs. It's like they tried to copy the success of those episodes in movie form, and they changed some of the characters, they changed some of the details. It's no longer an alien from another world with his alien time machine. No, he's a human inventor from the present that somehow invented a time machine that for some reason is a police box that's bigger on the inside. Never really bothered to explain that. So yeah, it basically just copies the Doctor Who formula and tries to recreate it in living Technicolor with a much bigger budget and actual proper set design. And yeah, that was really how I felt about those movies originally when I watched them for the first time. And you know what? I still think they're completely unnecessary, especially the first one. The first one, we're going to talk about the second one in another video, but the first one, Doctor Who and the Daleks, I don't like it. I do not like it at all. Like I said, I much prefer the original, and I get it. It's 7 episodes. It is a long story, but I still like it. I'm a rare minority when it comes to Doctor Who, where the longer something is, the better. Well, not really the better. It's just I like it. I like the long form storytelling of the 7-part serials, and I just a couple of weeks ago, by the time of the standard of watching this series, a couple of episodes ago, I talked about the Daleks Master Plan, a 12-part serial that's still not even a full season. It's just one story taking place inside a full season. And I loved it. I loved all 12 parts of it. So to me, more does not necessarily equal less quality. It's just, it all depends on the quality of the story you're telling. And in my opinion, the quality in this movie retelling is far inferior to the original story from the TV series. I don't know what it is. It's just, I don't like the way the Thals look like. They look way too Star Trek-y for my taste. 60s Star Trek, to be specific. Just the whole set design looks really, really Star Trek-y. In fact, when the movie starts in the home, in the Doctor, in Doctor Who's home, it kind of feels like Mary Poppins, in a way. A Mary Poppins in the realm of Doctor Who, for some reason. And then when they transfer over to Skaro, and I will say this, I love the way Skaro looks like. I still like the way Skaro looked like in the original story, but in this movie, I like the set design of Skaro, the forest in particular, the petrified forest. Really, really good use of the budget that they had, but I did not like the way what's the name of the creature? I'm just gonna put the name of the creature right above my head at this point to avoid complications. I do not like the way the creature looked like in this movie. More to the point, I do not like the way the Dalek mutant looks like later in the story, but that's like I said, it's later in the story. I like the way Skaro looks like. Not a big fan of the way this TARDIS looks like. The TARDIS looks terrible on the inside. The outside looks great. I love the way the outside of the TARDIS looks like. Not a big fan of how the TARDIS looks like. Not a big fan of the set design of the city. Again, it's just too Star Trek-y to my liking. And oh my goodness, Ian, what? Look how they massacred my boy! Ian and Barbara are just some of my favorite characters in all of Doctor Who. I mean, the guy, the character has a massive legacy. Like, he recently showed up in Power of the Doctor. Like, 57 years later. That's how big this character is in this universe. And they just made him an idiot. They just took one of my favorite characters, and they just Jar Jar Binksed him. They just made him a bumbling imbecile from the start. Like, from his first introduction, him just leaning on the door, Susan opens the door, and then he falls headfirst into a grandfather clock. And like 5 seconds later, he sits on the candy that he was supposedly buying for Barbara. Like, why? Why would you do that? Ian's a funny character already. He's funny, smart, and strong. He's a complete package. Everything you need in a companion. You did not need to dumb that character down for comedic purposes. Like, there's still chances for comedic moments with that character without dumbing him down. So I will never understand what was the decision behind that, especially since all things considered, they kind of kept Susan and Barbara relatively the same. And speaking of relatively the same, one thing that I completely missed first time I watched this movie is just how much Peter Cushing tries his hardest to act like William Hartnell would without the grumpiness part, and I love that. Still, even though he's less grumpy and much more kind, and much more leaning towards the kind-hearted Dumbledore-like figure that the Doctor was originally pitched, I still much prefer William Hartnell, because the grumpiness kind of makes that character what it is, and the character growth and the journey that he goes on. But I still liked Peter Cushing. I think I didn't really rank him very high on my Doctor Who tiering ranking list that I did last year. I think I might actually have to bump him up a few notches just from rewatching these two movies, because I really like his portrayal. Like, it's so far removed from Tarkin or Dracula or any other role that Peter Cushing played before or after these two movies, but it's just, he is the Doctor in a way. And oh my goodness, the fashion sense that guy has. Like, I'm definitely planning on one of these days on The Greatest Show in the Galaxy every Monday on The Greatest Show on the Northern Entertainment Group YouTube channel. Look it up. But I'm definitely planning to do a tier ranking list of some of the Doctor's best wardrobes. His will definitely be very, very high on my personal list. He looks great, especially in the second movie. But we're not here to talk about the second movie. We're here to talk about the first one, which, again, I still don't like. I did not like the way the Thals looked like. I did not like how they really devalued a lot of the Thals in a way They made a lot. They just truncated the story a lot. There's just so much plot from the original, and I guess some could argue that there's just a lot of screen time, not much going on in the originals. I can get that. I disagree, but I still understand why people would say that. But in this episode, they just cut a lot of stuff off, and the things that they actually did keep from the original, they didn't really add to those original things that they kept from the TV show episodes, like none at all. But I spent all this time talking about the stuff I don't like, and some of the stuff I did like about this movie, but didn't even get to talk about the Daleks themselves. First of all, love the Dalek voices in this movie. Love, love, love the voices. They feel very much like the modern day Daleks that we get from the Nicholas Briggs era, and not so much the Peter Hawkins, Roy Skelton voices of the TV. On that department, I'd say it's an improvement. On the other hand, though, they just look really, really silly and goofy. And I get it. It's the Daleks. They already look goofy as it is. Okay? I mean, no joke. They have a plunger and a egg whisk as weapons. Okay? Like, what more can I say? The Daleks inherently are goofy-looking characters, but I always say that the best Doctor Who villains are the ones that can tread the line between goofy and terrifying. And that is partly the reason why, in my opinion, the Daleks are the best Doctor Who villains of all time, because they nail that balance perfectly. These Daleks are just not scary at all. They look way too goofy and plasticky, and their weapons are hardly effective. I mean, they've gone from just using the effect with changing the lights, which obviously then in more modern, not even modern, but just later iterations of the Daleks, they changed that whole effect into just a laser beam from, I believe, starting from the John Pertwee era. That's the way the Daleks weapons used to work. But instead, they just spray gas or some sort of gaseous substance, and that's supposed to kill people somehow? I don't know. I'm not a fan of the Daleks. And also, probably not kind of their fault, but also is. It's the fact that a lot of the times, the light bulbs on their head flickers for no reason at all. Like, as any Doctor Who fan would tell you, their light flickers whenever they speak. And it's sort of in sync with every time that Daleks have something to say, their lights flicker on and off. But in the original, the story, the episode, the movie, whatever you want to call it, in the Daleks, the Doctor Who and the Daleks. Fine, it took my time to get there, but in this story in particular, the lights just flicker on and off for no reason. Like, they didn't even know that they were supposed to be in sync with what the actors were saying. And a lot of the times they tried to have it in sync with what the Daleks were saying, but a lot of the times the Dalek lights would just flicker, and it would get pretty hard to tell which one is actually the one speaking. But, yeah, I didn't like the colorfulness of them. I do think that the colors of the Daleks make more sense in the second one, but clearly I've been spending a lot of the times comparing this movie, I should say, to the next one, so maybe I should go on ahead and wrap this up, because I really want to get to the second one as well. The fact that the TARDIS crew were already inside the TARDIS, trying to take off, knowing that they lost the fluid link, and here's, I would say, an improvement over the last one, is like, the fluid link subplot in the original kind of feels a little forced around the middle. I think it was by episode 3 or 4 when they finally escaped the Dalek city. when Ian is like, the fluid link, I lost it, and it's never really hinted at or teased. We never get a reference to that earlier in the episode. In this movie, though, we see one of the Daleks taking the fluid link away from the Doctor, which, you know, I still don't like the Dalek claw as opposed to the plunger. But again, this is just me in my ranting about how I don't like the design of these Daleks. But we do see one of the Daleks take the fluid link away. And here's another thing. I like that the Doctor very graciously, quickly apologizes for tricking them. And Ian, this stupid, dumb Ian in this movie, forgives him. I like that. See, there is some positives I can see about this one. But again, the fact that in the original Ian is furious with the Doctor kind of ties into the larger overall story of the Ian's distrust of the Doctor. It kind of started in Unearthly Child and then continued all the way to the Edge of Destruction. I like that he forgave him pretty much immediately in this episode, because in this movie, because it's kind of a completely different Ian, and I get it. And I like that the Daleks physically take the thing away and showing it to the viewer, so that the viewer knows that there's now this extra layer of crisis that the characters have to deal with, and yet somehow they just forget that a Dalek took it from them, and they still try to take off. And again, this is part of the redundancies of this movie's existence, because we already know that they can't take off because of the fluid link. Twice over in this case, because we've seen the episode. Well, I'm assuming you've seen the episode if you're watching this, but didn't really like that. There was no point in them trying to take off, and they should have just gone back to the fluid link either way. But you know, just again, I'm just arguing semantics at this point. Another thing I really don't like is just Ian is the reason why everything went wrong in the first place. Because again, Jar Jar Binks his way into things. He just leans over the lever that activates the TARDIS, which sent them to Skaro in the first place. And yeah, they chose to end this movie by dumping the TARDIS crew. And again, it's not even called the TARDIS, it's just TARDIS. No the. Because they're trying to make it different. Like, you know, Peter Cushing's character is called Doctor Who. He's not called the Doctor, he's Doctor Who. Because it's different. Whatever. You know, whatever. I'm done groaning over this stupid movie. And they chose to end it by dumping all of them in Roman times. Which I guess, in a way, is kind of a foreshadowing to the Romans story. Which, I mean, in the realm of Doctor Who, the TV show comes up about a season and a half later. But whatever. I mean, if you're gonna end this time-traveling escapade movie on a funny note, might as well go to the Roman era. To the Roman Empire. But yeah, really not much positives I can say about this movie. Except, I would say, they got really, really good production design. And the few of the moments that I mentioned earlier that they changed. But really not a lot of positives about this movie that I could say. But that might change when I get around to talking about the second one. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, let me know if you like it. I know I have some friends who love both of these movies, who live for those movies. I don't. If given the chance, I'd take the originals in a heartbeat over these two movies. But that's just me. I'm just a fan of the originals. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this movie in particular, and the other movie in general as well. And I will see you some other time. Goodbye for now. Hi there. Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.